Namaskar, Devi or Sajjano. It is a Hindi week celebration at my institute. So, with this greeting, I shall get going. Ajay had asked me to deliver this talk, and I shall say that this is the longest title I had to defend in the last 10 years. So, I have no conflict of interest to declare. Yes, I am more of a nephrologist and less of an immunologist. To get quickly related to the presentation, I will start with a case. We had a 48-year-old gentleman who, with end-stage kidney disease, who was referred to us. Related to the presentation, we had a 48-year-old male who was referred to our OPD for registering for a swapped kidney transplant. He was diagnosed with end-stage kidney disease of. I'm unable to move my next slide. Okay. Okay. He was diagnosed with end-stage kidney disease of unknown etiology while evaluating for his anemia. He also received 3 units of packed red cells along with dialysis through an untunneled vascular catheter. He had poor veins and was getting his IJV replaced multiple times for infection. During the discourse, he had multiple femoral vein catheterization and upper limb venous catheterizations. Also, he needed to travel 3 hours to get his dialysis. Factoring all the above causes, he decided to undergo a renal transplant with his better half as the donor. Unfortunately, the CDC was positive with over 50% killing with his donor. Luckily, we also had an ABO incompatible couple at that point of time who were looking out for a pair. And the index case was lucky that CDC was negative with the patient and the flow was positive. The single antigen bead for class 1 was over 10,000. So the questions pertinent to the topic would be, what are the objectives and benefits of renal transplantation? Should you transplant a HLA incompatible or wait for a compatible transplant from a diseased program? I must say that we have a robust disease donor program as well. What is the significance of a CDC negative, flow cytometry positive or negative, and a DSA positive scenario? When do you desensitize? Is there any consensus? Strategies to desensitize relevant to Indian setting, and what are the risks involved in the desensitization? The objective of undergoing a renal transplant is not to have any more hemo or peritoneal dialysis in the patient's life, and provided he lives a normal lifespan. The benefit of transplant are mainly quality of life, low recurring cost, and patient survival in the descending order for the majority. The index patient clearly had a poor quality of life and was clear in his mind about undergoing a transplant, even if it demanded desensitization. So the second question is it worthwhile to go for a HLA incompatible transplant or wait for a compatible transplant in a cadaver program? There are at least 2 impactful studies published in New England Journal and Lancet from the US and UK respectively with conflicting results. I shall take one by one. The first study is from 22 US centers where 1,025 transplant recipients who were HLA incompatible and underwent live transplantation were matched with controls from whole of the US. The outcome was compared with 2 groups, that is, one who were on a waiting list for a transplant, and the other group was those who remained on dialysis and did not undergo any transplant. The authors reported patient survival outcomes starting from year 1 to 8. The patient survival was 76% in the HLA incompatible group and 62% in the transplant waiting list group, with a difference of 14% and 33% difference in the incompatible transplant and the dialysis group. The study validated the earlier finding that patients who received HLA incompatible transplant from live donor had a substantial better survival than those who waited for a compatible transplant or remained on dialysis. The survival benefit was evident across all levels of antibodies. Patients who underwent HLA incompatible transplant with Luminex antibody alone had an 89% survival compared to 47% and 65% on patients who remained on dialysis or on the waiting list for transplant. Similar results were also observed in patients who had CDC positivity with flow cytometric positivity and those with flow cytometric positive and CDC negativity. So the conclusion is, across the immunological profile, HLA incompatible transplant had a superior survival to those awaiting a disease donor transplant or remaining on dialysis. The next study is from the UK, where 213 HLA incompatible transplants were compared in a 1:4 ratio to similarly sensitized patients in a disease donor program during a 6-month period. 41% of the patients who were listed in the disease donor program for a compatible transplant were successful. And at the end of the study, there was no survival benefit in patients who underwent a HLA incompatible transplant versus the patients who waited for a HLA compatible transplant or on dialysis. So the survival of sensitized patients undergoing HLA incompatible transplant is comparable to those remaining on dialysis, which is in contrast to the reports from the Northern America. The important question, why is the difference? The results are really conflicting from the US and USA. First, the definition of sensitization. Any antibody positive was considered as sensitized in the American cohort versus only CDC positivity or a flow cytometric positivity was considered sensitized in the UK group. The second was regarding the matching methods. The US study group, the patients were selected from the dialysis patients were selected from the entire US population versus only 22 expert centers for the transplant with HLA incompatible donors. The UK centers were a better match in this respect. And third, which is well known, is survival of HD patients in the American cohort is inferior to the UK and the European cohort. And also the waiting time in US is traditionally longer compared to UK. Plus, there are other additional factors which remain unaccounted, like socio-economic factors, which is very important, and exclusion of childhood cohort in whom desensitization may limit the dialysis duration and improve the survival. Lastly, a quality of life assessment was never performed. And it's difficult with this kind of studies. The quality of life is paramount than the quantity of life itself. Next, in the Indian context, the survival on dialysis is dismal. There are at least 2 reports which are published in Nephrology and Kidney International, which reports a dialysis continual of only 19 to 38% at the end of the year. Yes, 20% of the patients did undergo a transplant, but the dialysis results are clearly inferior to the developed world. So coming to addressing the issue in the index patient, given the vascular access issue and the quality of dialysis, he decided to go ahead with the transplantation. So the next question, what is the significance of a CDC negative, flow cytometric negative, and a DSA positive scenario? So an Indian study from New Delhi did look into the relationship between the donor-specific antibody MFI, CDC cross-match, and flow cytometric cross-match. In patients who had their DSA in between 1,000 to 3,000, the CDC was negative in all of them. Flow cytometric cross-match was positive in about 50% of the cases. In between 3,000 to 5,000, the CDC cross-match was positive in only 1/3 of the patients, and vast majority were positive by the flow cytometric cross-match. The results highlights the deficiency of the current cross-match techniques in detecting the antibodies. Presence of any antibodies, even with a negative flow cytometric or a CDC cross-match, is associated with higher rejection rates, higher chronic antibody-mediated rejection, poor long-term survival of the graft, and also poor patient survival. So the next, when do you desensitize and what is the consensus? So what we need to understand is, at least we and most of the centers don't desensitize a CDC positive patients because usually they have a very high antibody titers. In patients who are CDC negative and a flow cytometric cross-match of less than 250 medial channel shifts suggests there is presence of antibody, but well within the managerial limits. And we could attempt a desensitization in them. Before we discuss, we need to know what the relative intensity score is. Relative intensity score is nothing but the strength of the donor-specific antibodies, where we allot 10 points for a donor-specific antibody to the evaluated by a single antigen bead assay of more than 10,000, 5 for those in between 5,000 and 9,999, and 2 for in between 2,000 and 4,999. In this is derived from a study of 226 sensitized patients. The risk for antibody-mediated rejections were previous transplant, pregnancies, donor-specific antibodies with relative intensity score of more than 17 and time on waiting list. The authors concluded that patients with relative intensity score of over 17 have high incidence of antibody-mediated rejection despite any desensitization attempt and poor allograft survival. Henceforth, an alternative donor should be looked if the relative intensity score is more than 17. I would suggest you all to read the following study. There are various strategies to desensitize. I would only enumerate that which are relevant to the Indian setting. You could do a B cell or a plasma cell depletion strategy using rituximab or bortezomib, immunomodulation with IVIG. I'm yet to understand how this works, and removal of circulating antibodies by plasma exchange. The target of desensitization is always a negative flow cytometric cross-match or lower than a predetermined cutoff, something like at least a 50% reduction. With respect to rituximab and IVIG, the study by Ashley et al., 76 patients who had a flow cytometric cross-match of over 50 medial channel shifts with a median value of 183 were desensitized with IVIG and rituximab as shown in the slide. The flow cytometric cross-match reduced from 183 to 68 medial channel shifts, and all the 76 patients underwent a successful transplant. However, 40% of the patients had an antibody-mediated rejections, and 2/3 of them, 40% had acute rejection, and 2/3 of them were antibody-mediated rejection. The graft loss was seen in less than 10% of the patient, suggesting that most of the rejection were treatment responsive. The next is plasma exchange and IVIG, which is commonly used. In the study from the Johns Hopkins evaluated if antibody depletion in patients who were CDC, flow cytometry, or single antigen bead DSA positive with plex and low dose IVIG was better than staying on dialysis. Patients with only DSA or DSA positivity or who had only a flow cytometric positive were given 2 to 4 sessions of plasma exchange, and those who had a CDC positive were given about 5 to 10 sessions of plasma exchange, basically targeting to a negative CDC. Most of the patients also received 5 plasma exchange after the transplant. So the results were the patient who underwent desensitization for Luminex only or a flow cytometric positive or a CDC positive transplant had a superior 8-year survival compared to patients who were listed on the waiting list for a compatible transplant or dialysis only. Live donor transplant after desensitization with plasma exchange and low dose IVIG provided a significant survival benefit than waiting for a compatible transplant or dialysis. Looking at this data, we proceeded with rituximab, plex, and IVIG in our patients, in our index case. So, the transplant life is very complex and should not be perceived as a Bollywood movie, not the narcotic part, but the love story part where everything has a fairy tale ending. They don't state what happens after the marriage, and we know what happens. Similarly, desensitization in an Indian context is a catch-22 situation. You have a risk of rejection, which is similar irrespective of the socioeconomic status, but the infections are certainly a cause of concern in these patients. We have had really bad infection. I'm sure many of you have had bad infection in patients who received desensitization and then ATG. And PTLD and other malignancy are the other risks that these patients endure. The incidence of rejection in patients who receive plasma exchange and IVIG ranges from 43 to 71 with plasma exchange and low dose IVIG and 18 to 36 with the high dose IVIG group. These published reports are not at all comparable. There is one study from Mayo which compared plasma exchange and low dose IVIG with or without ATG versus high dose IVIG. plasma exchange and low-dose IVIG with or without ATG performed far superior to IVIG alone. Another important question is, how do you follow this patient post-transplant? We need to test all these patients for a donor-specific antibody in the first 3 months, and a screening biopsy is recommended. In patients who have a clinical or a subclinical rejection, you need to treat them. And in patients who have a burgeoning of antibodies, anti-rejection therapy may well be considered. And we need to also factor the cost while we counsel them for such a transplant. The cost of anti-rejection therapy, even in a public sector hospital like PGI, is about 100,000 rupees. So coming to the index case, he underwent a transplant after the desensitization with ATG induction, TAC, MMF. The TAC trough levels were about 12 to 15. The patient did not have a normalization of serum creatinine, did undergo a biopsy. The biopsy was not very adequate, and however, there was no evidence of rejection. The patient had a rapidly rising antibody. It went from 1,000 to 4,000. Considering the rapid rise, we did institute anti-rejection measures, and the creatinine settled down to 1.4 to 1.5. At the end of 1 year, the patient did have proteinuria along with a mild rise in serum creatinine, underwent a biopsy, which did show chronic antibody-mediated rejection. The story did not end there. The patient had multiple episodes of respiratory tract infections. Under 2 years, the patient did have cough, loss of appetite, and fever. On evaluation, was diagnosed with nocardiosis, which was resistant to all the oral drugs, that is cotrimoxazole, and sensitive to only IV drugs, and also was diagnosed with histoplasmosis in a closed succession. Presently, the patient is only on steroids due to the life-threatening infection with a serum creatinine of 1.6. And the objective of the talk was not to terrorize you with the case, but to highlight the issue faced by an ESRD patients who are sensitized. I'm sure many of you would have had patients who had a smooth sail and others who had fished in the troubled waters. So we need to understand the positive and the negative aspect of all the treatments that we administer to our patients, and they need to be well informed. So to conclude, should we transplant a HLA incompatible patient? We should always consider and weigh the risk versus benefit ratio. Desensitize when the relative intensity score is less than 70 and the flow cytometric cross match is less than 250 medial channel shifts, or whatever your lab cutoff is. There is no guideline as such, evidence-based guideline as such. Plasma exchange-based treatment is reasonable to desensitize the patients. Infection is something which we need to keep in mind when we desensitize the patient, and we need to counsel them. Thank you very much for the patient hearing. I would like to thank Dr. Jasuja, Professor Balla, Dr. Vinant, and Dr. Ajay for asking me to speak on the topic. Thank you.